Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, beautiful people, what is up? It's May 20th. It's 2014, and this is Day 9 Daily number 707? Where we learn to be a better gamer? And in today's episode, we're going to do some Maru appreciation. In my opinion, I think Maru is the best Terran player in the world. I'd want to say Flash, who's currently the #1 ranked Pro League player, but Maru seems to continue to do well in GSL when he travels, in Pro League. He's so good! So we're going to watch him be good, specifically in the Terran vs. Protoss matchup. Now that I'm on air, I realize how branded I am today. I have like an artillery t-shirt and an artillery sweater on. I mean, of course, being the Bachelor Frog mode that I always live in, I just open up the drawer and just grab the shirt and put on the shirt, and I'm cold, and grab the first fuzzy thing and put it on. And it looks like I've coordinated very well. I'm expected to be wearing some sort of sexy green artillery thong, but wasn't at the top of the drawer. Maybe another day, like Halloween, I'll go as a brandophile. Nice. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a Hearthstone show on a what's called the Crusher Control Paladin that I haven't been able to win with at all. I committed to doing the show, and then I began to play with it, and I've dropped 2 ranks. So that's going to be awesome. Thursday we're going to do some parting appreciation, and Friday, I don't know. Thinking Transistor. Or something with my good buddy JP McDaniel. We'll figure that out. I feel obligated to talk about this. That apparently Google's buying Twitch. I think it's obviously not finalized because Twitch hasn't announced it, but it was all up on the news, and I would say that conceivably that's good as long as it doesn't become something. Actually, you know what? I'll be the first to say it. You know what? Watch this. Watch what I'm going to do in my position of power. If they link everybody to their Google Plus profile, so when you type in chat, it shows your full name and identity, I think that would help the chat a lot. Wouldn't that be awesome? Oh my god. Stephen McCarthy from Minnesota wants to raise the dongers. All the dongers getting raised. That'd be so good. Oh, man. But I think conceivably that's going to be a positive thing, I'd imagine. Google did a very good job taking YouTube, which I believe had no revenue at the time of purchasing it, to something that generates lots of money for the content producers on it and Google, so that seems really good. It seems to be pushing the entire internet broadcasting medium forward, which I think is a positive thing. I'm not the biggest fan of the Hollywood structure and all that garbage and all those kind of terrifying stories you hear about how people sell their souls in order to do something creative. I like the idea that you can just broadcast without there being a gatekeeper. So if Google acquires and helps more money get generated for the content producers and for themselves, and adds more features for the viewers, I think that sounds great. Conceivably is like a good thing. I'd imagine. I would imagine. I don't know. That's about it. I don't actually have a very strong opinion. As much as I've said all that, I only say that I 10 to 20% care, because in my eyes I don't like to speculate on what could or couldn't happen, because it's more important to just deal with what is potentially going to happen, as in they say we're considering doing this. Most of all, here's the thing that I strongly think, I hope that there's clear lines of communication between whoever and the content producers. Twitch has always been really great with me personally about just asking how things are going, so I hope that continues. Yeah, I just don't. I think not having extremely strong opinions is a very valuable thing. I think it's so important. Okay, so here's something that I don't understand. It's particularly prevalent among the young folk in college and high school. And I get to call y'all young folk because I'm gonna be 28 soon. I gotta hurry up and have kids. I gotta put that on the OkCupid profile. Needs kids soon. Here's a list of 6 things I can't live without. Nice. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. But the young folk, they love. I don't know why, but for some reason there's a seeming insecurity with having somewhat of a subtle or not particularly strongly held position. It's not, hey, I've seen you do that thing a couple times. It is, you always do that. Me and Jerry noticed, everyone's been talking about it. Everyone is talking about how you always do it. It is worse than AIDS. God! Whoa! You've lost your point in the exaggerations. Just have a calm point. Just say, hey, there's a thing you did that one time that bothered me some. And then shut up. It makes your point stronger. It actually makes it much stronger in argumentation. Let's talk about Maru. I'm also almost out of water. So, here's what I want to talk about in the Terran vs. Protoss matchup. Traditionally, what we see is what I call the one build that you're allowed to do. The Reaper expand opening. There's a lot of big threats that Terrans have been up against, in particular the Blink Stalker play. But there's this shift in the metagame that's happening right now that is not as talked about. Terran players kind of seem to be, Terran players seem to be persisting with this Reaper first every single game. And a lot of the reason is that this was a pretty good answer to Blink play. You'd get in the main base, you'd see what was up, and then you could respond accordingly. Reapers are great at that. But what we've seen is that with the rise of the Widowmine as a tool to knock down Zealots, Protosses feel somewhat obligated to steer clear from going for a lot of Blink-based plays unless they're going to go straight into Robo. So with that, as we go to the Maru cam, with that shift towards more Robo-based units, just in general, and less Templar-based stuff, what we're seeing is that Terran players are not up against as aggressive of Blink plays. And if they are, they're comfortable against a 5 or 6 gate Blink opening, because it has to transition into something Zealot heavy, and mines are very good against that. So what we're seeing is that Terrans have more opportunity to do stuff like this. Just a good old one Rax expand. The late scout pops up on in. And I want to note this particular scout timing. It's after the barracks. I'm actually going to pull back so we can look at it happen. It's after the barracks goes down, I believe at round 16. I think it's either 15 or 16. I think this guy gets rallied out. Right around the time when that Terran player... Damn it, I'm wrong. Is it right after the barracks with that guy? Cool. This SCV that finished building this barracks goes and scouts the Protoss player. And this is an extremely important time because it will arrive right as that Cybernetics core finishes, which means a couple of things. 1, nothing can kill our scout, and 2, we see exactly what he does. So, nifty, no expand.
Complete.
So journey with me to the story of this SCV. How gorgeous. Sees the Zealot gets cancelled, and if you're not as suave as Maru to see it get cancelled, you can just be like, oh, the Zealot didn't come out. But we see the core is almost done, we see a single gas. It's very clear that it is a 1-gate expand build. That's what Maru's going to be up against. It's also clear now that Maru is able to do this on a 2-player map where he can get that guaranteed scout. This is going to allow Maru to cut all kinds of corners. Doesn't have to build a bunker right away. Is just going to be able to build a 2nd barracks and a 3rd barracks. Maru is not even going to do anything like stay in the main base. He's just going to come home. There it is. Heads right away from the watchtower. No fear. He's just going to be hyper efficient. Just going to check to make sure there's no proxy Stargate. And we're good. And back home. Cool. So already this allows Maru to have his SCVs mining minerals the whole time. Allows him to get his barracks up earlier. He didn't spend a little bit of money and time getting a geyser for a Reaper that would be relatively useless beyond that scouting phase. And as he's checking around, he's not seeing anything big and scary and threatening. Maru's even getting his 2 refineries before this bunker. The bunker is actually like last on the bucket list. The SCV that finishes the command center is the one to get the bunker up. So a lot of things just start happening at a very early time. Often you'll see Terran players who will get this tech lab at around 6 minutes, sometimes 6:15. And here we see it at 5:30 getting started. It's going to be quite an early stim. Moreover, we have all the barracks done, so our marine count's going to be pretty high. We have the SCV curling all the way around the backside of the map. Cool. Good old cool stuff. Next thing that Maru does on the bucket list is very expected. He's going to get his stem. Aren't you, Maru? Oh, thank God.
Our SCVs are under attack.
SCV gets attacked, gets no information. That's part of the reason why I'm not spending a lot of time discussing our Protoss buddy. Because it's all about Maru doing this more or less blind. And he does get the factory with his next set of 100 gas. I know this all seems like obvious and stuff, but I'm going to stop in just a second and explain why it gets me all tickled. Gets his engineering bay, not super swiftly. And as we stop at the 7-minute mark, here's what I want to note. Typically, at this point in time, Terran is somewhat light on Marines. Typically, a Terran player is not uncommon to have a much smaller Marine count, closer to 6, 7, 8, something in that range, because the Terran player sacrificed a little bit in order to get that early Reaper, delaying these barracks. It's not a lot smaller, but it's a little bit smaller. That Reaper, that early expenditure of gas, winds up slightly delaying everything. Look at this factory almost done. Look at this stem that only has 100 more seconds until it's completed. I almost feel like this is a point that I get really excited about and everyone's gonna see and go, yeah, but this is really big. This is really big because Terrans are being incredibly defensive minded. Oh, there's a Blink Stalker coming up. Ah. And this extremely old school play we haven't seen in a very long time. This extremely by the book barracks, followed by 2 barracks, followed by all the usual gas-based stuff with an expand, is actually extremely potent against a modern Protoss player. Think about what the average Protoss bear is going to be doing. Something Colossus focused for defense with lots of space. And Maru already has some secret preparations for that incoming, which we'll get the chance to see. Maru has a lot more units than the average. Oh, and by the way, a lot of the reason why Blink is successful is that Terran players are opening up with this Reaper play. There's plenty more Marines. I shouldn't say plenty more. There's a relevant amount of extra Marines. And this is largely thanks to Maru's very swift scout that saw that it was more or less a simple 1 gate, no gas, expand. Excuse me, 1 gate, no second gas, expand. Maru has his Marines all spread out. Throws down the scan, just in case. Sees the forge, sees the robo, great. Why'd he throw down the scan right now? Because this is a pretty important time to ask, am I getting all in or not? And like clockwork, when the starport goes down and the reactor goes down, Maru is also going to throw on the add-ons. Why is that? Because this is a period where you need just a little bit of extra cash buildup. You need to get your supply depots starting to produce 2 at a time, because you're going to be building medevacs as well. You have some upgrades that you're going to want to spend money on in a little bit. And this forces your barracks not to be building units. So you get a little bit of money, that's great. But look at Maru being very active. We'll see throughout this that despite the fact that Maru is doing typical looking stuff, his unit movement is gorgeous. He sees a robo. Colossus aren't going to be out at 8:13. This troop of Marines is completely free to roam. Marauders getting produced at the extremely early time of 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Medevac boost. Thank God we weren't building Marines and Marauders this whole time. We wouldn't have had money. It's great that these 2 add-ons were placed. Let's have a blast, says the appropriately themed Marauder. 8:45. 8:45 might seem like a not very relevant time for Stim to be done, but there's a couple of robo-based all-ins that hit right now. What we're actually seeing out of Myungsik is this pretty common play, which is to go for some Colossus as the core defense, and then get the big 3. The Robo Bay, Blink, Twilight Council, and a Forge to get the +2. The big thing that gets delayed are gateways. I mean, that's pretty common. But watch this shiz. This is amazing. This is insane. This makes no sense. This tickles me. Actually, I'm going to back up. I'm going to back up 10 seconds so you don't get tickled by the wrong thing. I wouldn't want you to get mistickled. That's not something that I'm into. Unless we're at a beauty pageant, in which case, I hope mistickled wins. God, I'm bringing out the big guns today. I am the best. So at this juncture, here is the little snazzy move that Maru continues to do. This is something that emerges in Heart of the Swarm that was not here in Wings of Liberty. Maru always gets a reactor on the factory right away. I mean, it's no secret that your factory can be used to make add-ons for future barracks, but there's no barracks anywhere in sight. This is a factory that is going to use this reactor to build extremely fast Widow Mines. Very funky play. We're about to see it kick into awesome. Maru isn't positive if he's going for Colossus or High Templar. Wants to prepare for that. And in fact, Myungsik is doing this very weird immortal drop to try to pick off reactors or tech labs. It's a super sweet play that rolls very nicely with this Colossus ground weapon upgrade. Excuse me, this Colossus Forge Blink play. We see Maru had these barracks already rallied into the main. Like I said, it might look standard, but it's these little maneuvers that allow Maru to, surprisingly, not take as much damage. The extremely early medevacs, typically this will pop out and pick off this reactor before a pair of medevacs pop out, but the medevac's already out. Now this is sort of incidental. This reactor is going to be given to this factory, but I want to emphasize the core of what Maru's actually doing, which is to get mines out pretty fast. So we see the command center en route. Look at these forces moving out. I want you to be not blown away at the number of forces here. Look at how not impressive this is. 17 Marines, 2 Marauders. moving up to the front, and there's 2 Colossus, there's 2 sentries here, Stalker. You know what I do in this spot as Terran? I get the hell out of there. This is just not that impressive. And yet, as I slow down to normal, Maru darts right up, picks off 1, and he darts right off and picks off 2. Easily. The theme of this game, that which I want to tickle you in this particular matter, is how amazing Maru is at just going and killing the damn Colossus. He just goes up and kills a frickin' Colossus, and now we can further see why swiftly darting towards Widow Mines is good. If we get our Marine Marauder and Medevac up quickly enough, we can pick off Colossus because there's not a lot of supporting units. And if we can do that, then the Protoss player is going to be forced to build more gateway units to defend. And if we can do that, mines are super strong. Much stronger than normal. Mines are not good against a Colossus-based force, but they are very good against a gateway-based force. So Maru, who is rallying into his main, rallies into pain. Oh! Oh, it's so sexy. It's arousing. Maru is even patrolling. He has an expand up. He's getting barracks 4 and 5. And a little teensy thing that Maru does that few others do is get like this weirdly timed 6th barracks. Everything else is very typical. I mean, he's getting his armor upgrade. He's getting an armory. I don't think he actually gets a 2nd engineering bay. Is that somewhere to be found? There it is. So Maru, by doing this, immediately says, hey, robo-based player, you don't get a 3rd. Because I'm here to poop on your face. Medevac count up at 6. Still more or less constant production. Did you see this? Maru is looking for any chance that he can to kill Colossus. He's eager to kill Colossus. Because gateway units, by and large, are awful. And I mean that with all the sincerity in my heart. They're just bad units. They don't deal very much damage. Sentries, Zealots, Stalkers. I mean, Zealots are good only in extremely large numbers and with charge. Stalkers, even with Blink, aren't very intimidating in direct engagements. And Sentries tickle. So per usual, all notable strategies are based on when the opponent gets a 3rd base. No 3rd here. We've just gotten vision of this thanks to the Watchtower. No 3rd here. We saw 2 mines evaporate. Mines are not very good against a Colossusing player. So Maru just has himself that reactor that was building them mines. He's going to go ahead. He's going to give that to a star part. And he's going to get himself another fancy barracks. All barracks rallied into the main until he so desires to move out. Some attempted drops. I don't care too much about that. What I do care about is 6 medevacs, 1 Viking against a 2 Colossus force. What would you normally do? What would you normally do? I want you to think about that. Because what Maru does is he engages this from all sides. He just target fires. He spreads. He's extremely pleased to engage these forces. He's not even able to go toe-to-toe with the Colossus. Only has 1 engineering bay upgrading, picks off 1 Colossus, picks off the 2nd one, and once it's down to only gateway units, Maru doesn't give a fuck. There is a seeming mystery to what's happening in this game that I want to unfurl for you like a red carpet to the Knowledge Awards. Jesus, I am on fire today. If The Terran can keep the Colossus count relatively low. Bio will overwhelm the Gateway Force. The early play to get the super medevac, or the medevacs out super early, killed 2 Colossus. Easy as pie. Darted in, lost a lot, killed the Colossus. Big attack comes in, looks very threatening, but that's only 2 Colossus. I mean, Young Sick has 2 choices after he loses those early 2 Colossus. Keep building Colossus and ditch a transition to Templar, or continue with a transition to Templar. In the case where he elects to build the Colossus, we see exactly what happens. Maru overwhelms. Otherwise, Maru can simply keep building mines because you're switching to Templar, and he's going to smack that face with the mines. Extremely gorgeous game from Maru. Might on paper look relatively straightforward, but that troop movement, the rallying into the main, the delay of the 2-2 upgrades in favor of getting more of a juicy mid-game and staying very active, I love. No swift move to Vikings. Vikings never even really made a participation in the game in the slightest. So when we come back, we're going to see Maru take another big dump on Youngsik. And then we'll likely see Maru take Miaru. Then we'll watch some more Miaru games versus Dong Regu. Oh, I love Miaru.